So how do you even describe Call of Duty as a franchise in 2025, right? The brand, it's so omnipresent and seemingly eternal. It's been on a yearly release schedule since I believe 2005's original Call of Duty 2. So that's like 20 non-stop years of answering the call. If you're at all plugged into the mainstream games industry and you follow this news, then you know it's an unavoidable topic of discussion. And you know, the franchise's sales domination has been so really complete and thorough that it's hard to imagine a world where Call of Duty isn't number one. It's always on the game charts, right up there with the never-ending Grand Theft Auto 5. These games are also an anomaly in the industry. Call of Duty's only dipping its toes in the live service model with the Warzone mode, but the games themselves have stubbornly stuck to that full-price, yearly release model, something that almost no other franchise has been able to accomplish outside of yearly sports game releases. But what's interesting about these games is that there is still some crossover with the hardcore gaming demographic. You know, it's not something that the core gaming audience ignores. When a game like NBA 2K comes out and has like a bunch of predatory microtransactions and it's just a mess with bad game modes, lacking any innovation or new ideas, usually, you know, the larger gaming community just kind of shrugs and doesn't care. But when a Call of Duty game is subpar, everyone stands up and takes notice. It's especially noticeable because otherwise, this is a series that used to be known for its quality, man. The early days, you had to be there before like the Call of Duty bros took over. Look, you know, for at least a little while, the games were remarkably consistent given the yearly schedule, but in 2025, that consistency seems like it's out the window, and it might have been for a while. First, it was 2023's Modern Warfare 3, with its clearly half-baked campaign that just really felt slapped together with the multiplayer offerings that just kind of improved on Modern Warfare 2 but did little else, and its terrible and unnecessary zombies mode. I did the before you buy for this game, and it kind of bummed me out. Look, we've had Call of Duty games with issues before, but this was clearly a game born out of seemingly development or corporate dysfunction and corporate greed on Activision's part. There are rumors suggesting that what eventually became Modern Warfare 3 was originally designed as a paid expansion for Modern Warfare 2, like, you know, DLC. But Activision bumped the game up to a full paid release and, you know, tried to add more to it last minute and gave the developers less than a year to really slap together what they had to make this happen. That's not 100% confirmed that like it's all true. It's a lot of hearsay, but it does make perfect sense because that game really did feel stitched together. It was rough. It felt like it was cobbled together from disparate elements in a very desperate attempt to just get it out the door in some kind of complete state. They have to hit that yearly goal every year, no matter what. There was just a noticeable stink on that one. Now, Black Ops 6 has some problems, but was way more of a return to form for the series. It felt good, even if support mostly dried up around seasons 3 and 4 on the multiplayer, as focus shifted to, I guess, finalizing what will be Black Ops 7. But Black Ops 6 had a really decent campaign, at the very least, but the game's post-launch support left fans feeling more neglected. They were more focused on inserting as many crossovers and brand synergies as possible over actually making the game better. So the 1-2 punch of Modern Warfare 3 and the Black Ops multiplayer stuff made it so fan opinions on the series were already pretty low, and then Activision Blizzard got hit with the double whammy of an actually good Battlefield game releasing not too long ago with Battlefield 6, and something new and exciting with Arc Raiders. That's the environment that Call of Duty Black Ops 7 launched into, and if they had any hope of winning back fan support, then the game was gonna have to be more than just another number. It needed to be more, it needed to be better, and to actually address people's problems with how Black Ops 6 rolled out. It couldn't just be good enough. With actual competition out there, this game couldn't just get by on goodwill anymore. So if you've been paying attention, Black Ops 7 launched on November 14th, and the reception hasn't really been great, at least in the hardcore crowd. If you just look at critical reviews, you might be led to believe that it's actually okay. The game's Metacritic is currently hovering around a respectable 83, from 18 review outlets, but the user scores and just like looking at message boards and social media, it paints a very different picture. Now, at the time of us making this video, the Metacritic user score for the game is sitting at a score of 1.7 out of 10, which is even worse than 2023's Modern Warfare 3, which scored 0.5 higher at 2.3 out of 10. Is that an extreme number? Maybe, to a point, but I still think it's worth noting. In terms of sales, there are also signs pointing to the game underperforming. It's early, we don't know yet for sure. This is Call of Duty, so it's inevitably still going to sell well, regardless of perceived quality. It's something we've seen time and time again, when everyone is hating on a game, but then it's revealed that it inexplicably broke all series sales records anyway. That's happened before, and honestly, there are so many people out there that don't read articles. They don't look at video game memes. They don't listen to people like us talking on the internet. They just see a new Call of Duty on the shelf, they buy them every year, and they go in. The Call of Duty train seems to just kind of roll on regardless of, players like us complaining, but that might not actually be the case as much this time around. We're not saying that the game is set to be some kind of massive sales failure, because we're just not at that point yet. It's too early to call any of these numbers definitive, and you always have to take into account that the game is now a day one Game Pass game, so pure sales figures aren't the only metric this series is graded on anymore. So just take all these facts and figures we managed to dig up with a grain of salt. There's a lot of signs that Black Ops 7 may actually be underperforming for the series again, but we just don't have all the facts yet to make a definitive statement one way or another. Take, for example, the Steam concurrent players. This is one of those things that gets dismissed the quickest when it comes to these conversations. I get it, but there is something interesting there. What we've seen is that Black Ops 7's all-time peak player count on Steam so far is 100,332, which sounds low for a massively popular series, but keep in mind that these games have never had a huge presence on Steam. What's telling is if you compare that number to the highest concurrent player counts of Black Ops 6, which got up to around 315,000, which means that the amount of people playing this year is almost 2/3 less than last year on Steam. Both games were free on Game Pass at that point, so that didn't change anything. So it appears to be that player interest in the game may just be lower in general. On consoles, the situation appears more like what you'd expect. Black Ops 7 is the highest grossing game on the PlayStation Store, as you'd expect, of course, but if you check the Microsoft Store, then things get a little more interesting. If you sort by top paid games, then Black Ops 7 isn't the #1 selling game. It's not the second, or the third, or the fourth, or even the 10th highest ranked game on the list. You actually have to scroll down to find it at number 12. And that's not even the core game, it's a Vault Edition upgrade. The actual game is all the way down at number 15. In some ways, this isn't entirely unexpected, because the main game is available as part of Game Pass, so very few people are going to actually buy it on the Xbox consoles, but that's still much further down on the list than we expected, You know what games are at the top? Arc Raiders at number 1, and Battlefield 6 at number 2. Again, let me repeat, none of this means that Black Ops 7 is going to be a failure, and I don't think it's going to take one game to be like the end of Call of Duty as a franchise, but the dip could be significant enough that it'll maybe force Microsoft and Activision to reconsider the series' future and how they approach it. You have to keep in mind that this series now is a big part of the Xbox division's portfolio at this point. They bought Activision Blizzard for Call of Duty mostly, and it's a key part of their current shift in strategy by, fully committing to a multi-platform release strategy, Microsoft and Xbox spent $75.4 billion to acquire Activision. And what is Activision's most popular franchise? Again, Call of Duty. And they need this series to be successful, to justify the amount of cash they spent on it. So Call of Duty can't just become like a regular old series, like a stalwart that just moves along. It needs to continue to be the biggest game ever for years and years to come. And that's what makes Black Ops 7's current status so interesting. The game is being promoted as the biggest Call of Duty in history. The other day I was in Times Square and I saw giant billboards everywhere, more than usual for a Call of Duty. And to their credit, there is a lot of video game here in this package, but if anything, it's even more of a cut-up collection of resources than even Modern Warfare 3. The campaign is especially guilty of this, being made up of mostly slightly altered multiplayer maps in a lot of sections, and half the game taking place in the Avalon Warzone map they've apparently been sitting on for years at this point. They tried doing this with the Modern Warfare 3 campaign, and it also sucked there too. And don't even get me started on them like wasting the original and I think pretty good Black Ops lore on whatever is going on here. It's such a shame. The core multiplayer is better, and we said that in the before you buy. Like, we found the multiplayer to be pretty decent, but that's only because they've reversed course so much. We've basically reversed course back to like Black Ops 2. All innovation in the series has kind of bled out since Modern Warfare reboot, and it's like 2012 all over again, which isn't necessarily a bad thing, but it does suggest that the Call of Duty developers, you know, they're trying to figure out, they don't really know like where to take the series now. All they can do is attempt to recreate these past glories. Sure, it's higher definition, insane graphics, all that, but everything else is worse. Part of that probably comes down to the bizarrely rushed development timeline. According to the developers themselves, Black Ops 6 and 7 were greenlit at the same time. They try to present this as a positive, but even when they're selling this as something to get excited about, you can still see the cracks present, like how they specifically mention wall running as an exciting new feature that'll appear in Black Ops 7. Guess what Black Ops 7 specifically doesn't have? You guessed it, wall running ain't a thing in this game. And that campaign is where you can really see the struggles to get this game out the door. They try to justify how basic and empty everything is by making it a 4-player co-op campaign, but it's impossible not to notice just how slapped together and not as like high quality, good production value. Like the whole thing just doesn't feel great. I also just think the game is in an interesting spot because, again, we had this really big Black Ops 6 last year, and then right away, it's just another Black Ops. We don't really technically get Black Ops games back to back. They space them out. They create a little more anticipation, a little hunger for the next flavor of a Call of Duty. Here, we got a Black Ops 6 and 7 right back to back. And the campaign stuff is rough because it was already kind of in rough shape. I mean, the story in Modern Warfare 3 was a mess, and that managed to feel like it completely torpedoed the reboot series and killed any interest in what could come next. With Black Ops 7, it's essentially a standalone story, so there's nothing much here to ruin other than your memories of Black Ops 2, which it just kind of attempts to desperately mine for nostalgia. There's only like one fairly memorable mission in the campaign. The one where you inexplicably play as 4 new characters and infiltrate this quantum computer facility in Japan. And even that is blatantly built from repurposed multiplayer maps, but still, it's kind of cool. The possibility of fun is here. I mean, the shooting still has the potential to satisfy. It always feels smooth, but the way that they built the campaign just feels like a slog from beginning to end. Like, instead of the old days where they'd make interesting combat encounters, they just throw endless hordes of like dumber bullet sponge enemies at you to pad out the length of the campaign. It feels like it's not respecting your time. At 11 missions, it doesn't feel incomplete like Modern Warfare 3, but the whole experience just feels tedious. And I cannot overstate just how terrible the story really is. It's such a disappointment. It's something that we only kind of skimmed through in the before you buy video, but it is shocking just how many stupid and inexplicable things happen. I know there are some people out there calling dumb stuff like battling a deep fake Menendez who summons giant machetes out of the sky audacious, but like, it just feels cheap. And trust me, I love big dumb shit, but sometimes it just does not land if it's not done right. So much of the missions are made up of random assets floating in an impossible void where nothing happens and no story progresses, and it's all just, hey, remember this thing that happened in Black Ops 2? How about this thing? And they at least try to mix it up by doing an extended callback to Black Ops 1, which is something I already did in Black Ops 6, kind of. For some reason, we get to return to Vorkuta, not once, but twice in a row. They apparently made these games at the same time, and the developers, like, did they not talk to each other? You know the Asylum? You know, the people that pump out those movies that are just, like, totally ridiculous? This feels like their version of a Call of Duty campaign, but not as fun as that even sounds. Like how they try to take refuge in audacity by making stupid stuff like Sharknado. Treyarch and Raven, the developers here, feel like they're trying to justify this clearly rushed campaign by having you fight a giant Michael Rooker for some reason. Give him a ton of health, all that. It just feels like it pads the fight out. All of the fights, really. It It all feels so like mercenary, just like relentlessly done and hollow, just like all the awful AI art that they used in the multiplayer stuff. It's especially bizarre because of how unnecessary it is. It's all just used for challenges and banners and player cards and stuff that they could easily just not exist. There's no reason for this stuff to be here, but its existence just makes the game look cheap. A Call of Duty game shouldn't look cheap. And I think what adds insult to injury is like having to play through the campaign to get to access to the, admittedly, a pretty fun endgame mode. Look, the core fan base, a lot of them have been frustrated with the state of the series for the past few years now, and it seems like those negative feelings are finally starting to seep into the mainstream a little bit. That's why we're seeing user reviews that are that bad. It's not because the entire game is just that terrible. It's not utterly unplayable. In total, it might actually be maybe a better package overall than Modern Warfare 3 for sure, but the negativity surrounding the game makes players just far less charitable toward it than usual, and I think that's a big thing. That's what's changing more so than the games themselves. The actual quality of the series is still pretty variable, but people are getting less and less willing to put up with the same old problems and dump full price yearly into it. Because for as many things as Black Ops 7, like, credit where credit's due, it does improve, like the overall slower speed in multiplayer.
Got the advantage, now we have to keep it.
And the improvements made to zombie mode this year, it introduces new problems, like that boring, terrible campaign. The always online single player, which players mostly gave a pass to last year, is a major point of contention this time. There's the lack of AI partners when playing solo, the weird homogenized war-zonification of all game modes outside of the standard multiplayer, the overall lack of innovation or new features other than a post-game mode that, again, is kind of decent but still feels cheap the way they put it in. It's a game with problems, but if the conversation around the series were in a more positive place, I think it would get more of a pass or more constructive conversation around it. But again, in 2025, with two major competitors out there kind of offering different flavors for different types of shooter players, and I think there was just some general disinterest by the fan base to returning to the near future setting of Black Ops 2 directly after getting another game in that same sub-series just a year earlier, means that people are not going to just accept what they're given this time around. So if you're looking at this video and the title, you want to know why Black Ops 7 is so mediocre or what went wrong with Black Ops 7, well, I think a lot of it comes down to the yearly release schedule. It is definitely a strain on development. They are cramming so many studios together, bashing them together to make these things every single year. There's fatigue on the game maker side, and there's gotta be fatigue on the player side as well. So what can we really take away from all this? Not much, really. I mean, Call of Duty will probably still be among the best-selling games of the year, like I said at the start. They'll probably continue to pump out these games after a year, and who knows, maybe the next one will be better. We would love to see that, a real good return to form, or maybe going back to the drawing board and coming out with something that really excites players, keeps them on their toes. Maybe the next one will be better, I don't know. Look, this is the world we've been living in for like 2 decades at this point, and it's possible, though unlikely, that we're finally starting to see a shift in perception of the series. Nothing lasts forever, not even Call of Duty, and while it's probably not going away anytime soon, as of right now it feels like the best years are behind us. For us, all that matters is if we're getting good games. At the end of the day, all this discourse and speculation and sales numbers doesn't matter, as long as we're just getting good, fun games. And it would be nice to play an actually good Call of Duty campaign at least twice in a row, and multiplayer that really gets its hooks in you for the long term. I know Warzone is still working out for people, but yeah, the series for a while remained consistently solid, but the past 5+ years have really been all over the place, with some of the best and too many of the worst campaigns in series history all kind of coming out back to back. Look, it really feels like the Call of Duty series might be in crisis and they don't know what they're doing for the future. I don't know how they're going to keep people engaged. It's something that they need to figure out, because as of right now, just looking at the conversation and looking at some of the numbers, there are definitely some questions. But that's some additional opinion on Call of Duty as a franchise and Black Ops 7. There's been a lot of conversation out there around it. Maybe you think it's all overblown. Maybe you're enjoying Black Ops 7. Well, let us know in the comments. Maybe you hate it even more than we do. Let us know as well. We'd love to talk to you guys. Be civil, of course, but hit us up about Call of Duty Black Ops 7. We'd love to hear it. If you like this video and you like talking games with us every single day, clicking the like button's all you got to do. We appreciate that. But thanks for watching, and we'll see you guys next time.